Okay, I'm glad to be joined here by my colleagues, Senators Menendez and Booker. We had a great meeting, ourselves and Senator Gillibrand, and we met with Gateway to figure out any way to get this done. We all know that Donald Trump has been standing in the way. We have allocated, the four of us, the two New York and New Jersey senators, all the money that's needed. All that's waiting is a signature, just one little signature from Elaine Chao, but she is being stopped by President Trump trying to use the Gateway Tunnel for political ransom. That's outrageous. The whole Northeast economy and the whole economy of the nation, because you look at the economy from Boston to Washington, it's more than 10% of the nation's, could be really hurt if these tunnels are not usable, and it's only a matter of time when that will happen. So we are figuring out ways that we can get this done with or without the president. We'd hope to do it with the president, but if we can't, we're figuring out ways to do it without him. So let me turn it over to Bob.
Yeah. Sure.
And let me return the favor, my dear friend.
All right, thank you. So,
I tried to return the favor.
As you can see, that's why none of us are journalists. We did have a great meeting. We had all the parties from both states and the agencies, the Port Authority of New York, New Jersey, as well as Amtrak. But I want to make it very clear, the president's budget, as far as we're concerned, as it relates certainly to transportation, is dead on arrival. And the reality is that every single provision that could help Gateway, New Starts, and a whole host of other elements have been dramatically cut by the administration. We will restore those cuts towards the ultimate goal with the help of the Democratic leader in the budget process. So that's round one that we intend to win. Round two is that I have been looking at projects across the country, in Arizona, in Colorado, and North Carolina, states that have large red elements to them. And the reality is that those projects with equal to or less money than we have put up for the Gateway project have received either high to medium ratings. There's no reason that our projects, which is a project of national significance, as has been said, 20% of GDP for the entire nation is generated by the Northeast Corridor. This is the economic vertebrae of the Northeast Corridor, and we are sitting on a ticking transportation time bomb. And so the administration would be in a crisis if any of these tunnels or the Portal Bridge cannot operate at the end of the day. And so it's time to get past, playing politics with this project, and we are looking at language that will ensure that the project can move forward. As Senator Schumer suggested, and we all support the efforts to make sure that any state or entity that advances money would get a full return on that money upon approval of the project. And so this project is going to happen. The question is whether or not the Trump administration will work with us to make it happen so that the nation's commerce, so that the nation's security, we saw in the post-September 11th world that multiple modes of transportation and intercity travel are critical, are preserved. And that's what we're working at stake, and I'll turn to my colleague, Senator Booker.
All right, you all will forgive me. I'm going to put this on and then say some remarks and then have to go. I will say that turn a little bit. You're saying my profile is not good enough?
He's so handsome. He's handsome either way.
So I stand with my colleagues right now, not just for warmth, but I stand with my colleagues now because of what is a national urgency. And I say a national urgency for the reasons why what Bob Menendez said. We are on the brink of a national crisis where the economic, a region that is an economic engine for our country, could fall into a traffic Armageddon, a transportation Armageddon like we have never seen before. The busiest river crossing in all of North America is the Hudson River. The busiest rail line in all of North America is the Northeast Corridor. If that should ever fail, it will cripple our regional economy, which will affect the nation as a whole, costing hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars a week to our national economy. We have been in that tunnel, Senator Menendez and I and the governor recently, and we have seen the corrosion and the deterioration of those tunnels that the experts say could possibly last another decade or so, only if we don't see another Superstorm Sandy. One weather event this October or November again could potentially cripple our region. This is a national security issue. And before, we saw bipartisan agreement. A Republican governor and a Democratic governor of the two states joining together with a bipartisan congressional delegation to prioritize this as the #1 infrastructure urgency in our nation. And now we have a dam blocking the flow of resources to this critical infrastructure project. We have seen, again, a bipartisan Congress allocate money time and time again. This is not about our inability to come together and prioritize this. This is about one president who right now is refusing to do what's necessary. And should we fall into the kind of Armageddon, it is on him. But let's do the investments now. We will continue to push in a respectful manner. We will continue to push with outstretched arms, because this is not about left or right, not about Republican or Democrat. This is about the United States economy and the urgency of this jugular vein that flows through our region, necessary to our nation as a whole. And I'll finally say this: whatever it takes, we'll name this the Trump Tunnel if necessary. I don't care. This is not about ego. This is about the people of the region. It is about the economy of the region. It's about our nation as a whole. Whatever it takes, let's do the right thing. That's what we were elected to do. That's what we swore an oath to do. Thank you.
Don't give that up that quick.
I won't give up the naming.
Get something for
I prefer the Menendez Tunnel, actually. I much prefer the Menendez Tunnel.
Senator, before you go, you were quoted.
We just want to do subject on this subject
yes,
first.
On this subject,
yes.
You were quoted. You were the one we quoted a couple of years ago, talking to Anthony Foxton, saying that they committed to paying half the tunnel costs.
He did.
I think Senator Menendez could go into this again, because that has been the rules of the game for decades. Go ahead.
The federal government was always willing to do it. We had to get the states to step up to the plate, and they did. So now the federal government committed under Fox to do it, but President Trump had Secretary Chow rescind that purely out of political pique, not out of any substance, not out of anything wrong. The money is there. We're just awaiting a signature, plain and simple, and the only thing holding that back is pique, anger, revenge, whatever you want to call it, a bad emotion that the president seems to have, which will hurt New York, New Jersey, and the whole economy.
One final example of that. This project already has federal money in it.
Yes.
The Tiger grant that we got for the Portal Bridge is what brought the Portal Bridge to the point of now being able to move towards a construction phase. So there was already a commitment by the federal government towards this project by virtue of the Tiger grant.
And by the way, anybody in the region who is suffering from traffic, I don't care if you're from Boston down to Washington, D.C., if you're tunnel delay, train delays, things breaking down, understand this is clearly on the president's doorstep. His failure to act, he's crippling already. The region is seeing delays, canceled trains, and other challenges because we're not investing in making sure that this region has a transportation infrastructure worthy of one of the globe's most valuable economic regions. And if the Chinese can build 18,000 miles of high-speed rail, we should be able to fix the busiest tunnel river crossing in North America.
So this is about the wall, right?
Well, the president has said he wanted to trade the wall for the tunnel. That wasn't happening, and now he at least thinks he's getting his wall another way. So let him free up the money for the tunnel.
Even if you're able to get gateway funding into the final budget, what would prevent the president from dragging on this and actually,
that's why we met. What we met today is with a contingency plan, which is that the states would front the federal share. And New Jersey's governor has been extremely generous in this regard, prodded by Bob and Corey, and they're willing to put up the federal share, but the legislation that we would pass and put into the budget says that they would automatically be repaid, and under a new president they would.
So that would be just to start Portal Bridge, not for the tunnel.
The Portal Bridge is the first stage and very much needed.
Absolutely. And look, once you have this language, it extends, right? The basic premise of the language
is
basically a no harm provision, which basically says if you upfront money upon approval, the federal approval, that money will be counted towards you, or you will be credited with it, or you'll be paid it depending upon exactly where we're at in the project. And so that's true for Portal, that's true for anything else. And so it would really unlock the doors. And it is our hope, working with the leader here, that we could actually get that language in, and I don't think the president would shut down the whole federal government over a language like that.
And both the New York and New Jersey governors support this language and say that they would be willing to be forthcoming in putting the additional money in to get us going until we have a new president. Hopefully that'll be soon enough.
And we have with us representatives of the Gateway Corporation and the bi-state agencies, and Jerry, I don't know if you want to add anything to it.
I just have a question about this. I mean, if you put forward money to pay for a project that the federal government has not approved, how can you demand that they pay you back for it?
That's what the legislation would say.
So
that would require them to pay it back.
And the vehicle for that would be?
The vehicle would be that the law that the
No, where would this bill go?
In the appropriations bill.
So you're still not talking until the end of the fiscal year now?
It would be the end of this year. That's correct, which starts October 1st.
The DOT yesterday on a budget call said, A, it's a local project, and B, you guys haven't put any skin in the game yet.
Utter bull.
Rosen has been, in 2005, I said I didn't trust him when he had a different position, and that's only been proven time and time again over the last decade and a half. First of all, there's more money in this project put up by both states and the independent agencies than many of the other federal projects in the country that have received high ratings by the Federal Transit Administration, number one. Number two, to say that this is a local project and can be done totally locally, well, that's like to say the federal highway system could have been done by the individual states. That's ridiculous. And number three, I don't know how this guy's going to be the Deputy Attorney General with lies like that. At the end of the day, he is totally off base as it relates to the statements he made, and we have to push back on those statements. Simply not true. There's more skin in the game than there was. These should be rated as high as other federal projects in the country, and it's a project of national significance. Everybody recognizes that.
Thank you. Got to go. You can stay.
All right.
If Trump is opposing this because he's trying to get the wall, what is Rosen's beef?
He's carrying out Trump's policies. He's carrying his agenda.
Well,
he's a negative as it relates to mass transit. He has been a negative voice on mass transit in general. But right now, he's carrying the water for the administration.
Okay.
All right, and you have Jerry. You want to say something on behalf of?
Well, all I'd like to say,
yourself.
I'm Jerry Zara, the chairman of the Gateway Development Corporation. We are very much in a race against the clock. We could not have 4 more zealous, articulate advocates. Obviously, Senator Menendez, Senator Booker, Senator Schumer has been great, Senator Gillibrand, and I think you can sum it up. You've heard what was said here, but if the tunnel sneezes, the whole nation will catch cold. We have got to take care of this issue and do it now.
Jerry, correct me if I'm wrong, the tunnel itself is a federal tunnel, right? It's owned by Amtrak.
Well, it is an Amtrak asset, and we say very often it's ironic that they're saying that the states aren't putting in enough. We question why we're putting in anything, but we're willing to do it. We're happy to go 50-50, and we have already allocated our 50%.
By the way,
our money's up.
intercity travel starts in Boston, and then it goes through Connecticut, and then it goes through New Jersey, and then it goes through New York, and then it continues on all the way to D.C. Really?
You know, we've had delays on the line, which caused delays out to Cincinnati. So one hiccup on this line impacts not only the region, but in many ways the nation.
Thank you, everybody.
Senator,
Thanks.
Before you go, Senator, is there there anything besides the legislation that you talked about? Any other proposals that were talked about in this meeting?
Yeah, I mean, that legislation's critical. TIFIA and RIF, making sure that those count, not as federal contributions, but because the states and entities have to repay them. So at the end of the day, it's just like having a mortgage, you know. And that has always been the federal policy. So reasserting that that is federal policy, and then making sure that we fund the budget contrary to what the administration sent us, so that we can actually avail ourselves of money when we get through the logjams.
Put this language in until the appropriations, whenever we get to appropriations
Right.
at the end of this fiscal year. When do you start work? You don't wait. Do you wait to the end of the year to actually start work?
Well, you know, work is already going on the Portal Bridge. The question is, it could go a lot. We could get into the construction phase, but I don't blame any governor for not upping money without a guarantee that they're going to be refunded, right?